Córas Iompair Éireann, or CIE, is a statutory corporation of the Republic of Ireland, answerable to the Irish government and responsible for most public transport in Ireland and, jointly with its Northern Ireland counterpart, the Northern Ireland Transport Holding Company, the railway service between Ireland and Northern Ireland. The company is headquartered at Heuston Station, Dublin. It is a statutory corporation whose members are appointed by the Minister for Transport Services. Since the enactment of the Transport Act 1986, CIE has been the holding company for Bus Éireann, Dublin Bus and Ireland Éireann, Irish Rail, the three largest internal transport companies in Ireland. It was originally to have operated the Lewis tram system in Dublin, but that project was transferred to the newly created Railway Procurement Agency. CIE's services are provided through three operating companies: Dublin Bus, which provides bus services in the Greater Dublin area, including most bus services within Dublin City and the former County Dublin; Bus Éireann, which provides intercity and regional bus services outside Dublin City and County and from Dublin to the rest of the country, as well as operating the city buses in Cork, Limerick, Waterford, and Galway and a number of other small urban bus systems. Ireland Éireann, Irish Rail, which operates intercity, commuter and dark trains, and, together with New Railways, the Dublin-Belfast Enterprise train service. CIE is responsible for the overall strategy of the group. It owns all fixed assets used by the three companies, such as railway lines and stations, the latter being dealt with through the group property division. It also operates an international tour division, CIE Tours International. CIE's vast number of advertising sites are organized through Commuter Advertising Network, since the mid-1990s, employing an external company to manage them. There are also a number of shared services provided by CIE to its three operating companies. Other than in the railway sector, CIE is not a monopoly provider of public transport services. A number of other operators exist, however, under the Transport Act 1932. These may not compete directly on any route for which CIE has been granted a license. However, legislation was enacted in 2013 to provide for the privatization of 10% of routes operated by Dublin Bus and Bus Éireann. This public competition will include these two operators and is set to be completed by late 2016. History. Córas Iompair Éireann was formed as a private company by the Transport Act 1944 and incorporated the Great Southern Railways Company and Dublin United Transport Company, adopting the logo of the latter company, the so-called Flying Snail. Great Southern Railways was incorporated in 1925, having been Great Southern Railway since 1924. Essentially it became, especially as it started to broaden its business interests into road transport, a monopoly transport operator. The Transport Act 1950 amalgamated CIE and the Grand Canal Company and formally nationalized CIE, changing its structure from that of a private limited company to a corporation under a board appointed by the Minister for Transport. The Northern Ireland Great Northern Railway Act 1958 transferred the lines of Great Northern Railway Board south of the border to CIE. Until 1986, CIE operated as a single legal entity, although it was internally organized into rail services and two bus divisions: Dublin City Services and Provincial Services. The vast majority of services were branded CIE, although long-distance provincial buses were branded Expressway and Dublin Electric Trains DART. In 1987, CIE was reorganized into a holding holding company and 3 operating companies. In 1990 it sold its 9 Great Southern hotels, including its hotel in Derry, Northern Ireland, to Éireann, the airport's authority. Financial losses in the future. CIE was established to provide road and railway transport, and later took on some of the canals and ports. It was empowered as both a provider and a licensor of other providers. For most of its existence, CIE, in particular its railways division, made large losses and was subsidized by the taxpayer. This provoked demands from the public and politicians to make CIE pay. In a similar pattern that's seen in many other countries, Ireland's railways were accordingly rationalized, and suffered severe cutbacks, while at the same time the road division was expanded. The Baker Tilly report found an amount of corporate malpractice in 2004-08. CIE did not pass on the report to the Minister for Transport until it was mentioned in the media. Losses in 2009. Ionrod Éireann, Irish Rail, €4 million. Bus Éireann, €54.1 million. Current government policy is that CIE should be abolished, with the 3 individual companies focusing on their own business areas and thus increasing competitiveness. This first move finally took place in 2013, with open tendering of bus routes set to take place in 2016. Full privatization of Dublin Bus and Bus Éireann is expected by December 2019. The biggest change to CIE's operational structure since 1987 came with the establishment of the National Transport Authority in December 2009, which has powers over CIE's operations in the Greater Dublin area. The Dublin Transport Authority Act 2008 also gives the Minister for Transport, instead of the chairman of CIE, the power to appoint the directors of the subsidiary companies. CIE receives public service obligation payments to support the provision of services on most of its routes. In 2013, Dublin Bus and Bus Éireann made a profit of €500,000 and €400,000 respectively, for the first time in a number of years.